Yep, you got it. I'm doing great, and I'm looking forward to talking a little handball. It, yes, looking forward to it. Yeah, so I coached high school baseball, grew up playing baseball, and I ended up coaching high school baseball for a long time and got some opportunities to coach in college and kind of worked my way up the ladder a little bit. I used social media as a platform to kind of teach philosophy and help people out, and it helped me kind of land some jobs. So I spent some time coaching University of Oregon, University of Missouri, South Carolina, University of South Carolina, and then got an opportunity to coach last year Major League Baseball at the Chicago White Sox and coaching at Fresno State. So I just been very fortunate to be able to be in the game of baseball, and I've coached softball as well for several years. And so, long story short, I've been in the game for a very long time, and I've been very fortunate to have the career that I've had.
That sounds incredible. I mean, I can't imagine the how you get from one point to the other. But what was it like with the White Sox organization? I don't know if that was even the high point, I guess, of the ride there.
Yeah, I mean, for me, I can tell you that when first day of spring training, when your jersey is up on with your name on it in the locker room, it's pretty incredible. And for me, since I was 4 years old, my dream was to be a Major League Baseball player, and then that dream didn't come true. And so, as in my early coaching career, it never in a million years would I've ever thought like, hey, my goal is to get to coach at the Major League level. So to get that opportunity and to have that, I mean, it was honestly, it was emotional and very surreal moment. Be able to do that, and again, I've been able to work with a lot of Major League players over the last few years and with organizations. And I mean, to the whole thing has just been, again, like I feel like there's days it's just surreal, and it's kind of a dream come true that I get the opportunity to do this. Uh, so it was an incredible experience. I think for a lot of people, I have 5 kids,
Oh boy.
and for a lot of people, college coaching, professional coaching, it's really difficult on family and being on the road so much. And so, there's pros and cons. Like Major League Baseball and the experience is incredible. Don't get me wrong, but it also takes someone special to be gone from their family for a very long time. And there's definitely some pros and cons to that business.
I believe it. I believe it. I'm sure your kids though are probably pretty, proud to say their dad was on a major league team and all that. So that's probably a cool, story for them at
Yeah,
school, I would think.
some of my younger kids will just blurt it out to people, their teachers and stuff, or So I mean, I know that they're proud of me, and that it definitely is definitely a special kind of thing to have.
And now you being in San Francisco and then being with the White Sox, were you guys living in Chicago, or is the rest of your family still in San Francisco, or how did
When
that
I
work?
when I got hired, we actually lived in Missouri,
Okay.
and the position with the White Sox allowed me to live anywhere in the country. Our spring training facility was in Arizona, and so we moved back home to the Bay Area where I grew up, where our family is, and stuff like that. So that was a big selling point. I mean, obviously, I told my wife there was no chance we were going to say no to that job,
Yeah.
regardless if we had to move to Chicago. But the ability to move anywhere and be able to move home, that was a big selling point. And so, yeah, we've been back in the Bay Area for almost 2 years now.
Oh, cool. Cool, cool, cool. And you're with Fresno State right now, is that what you said? Is that correct?
Yeah, and yeah, Fresno State, and Fresno's about 3 hours south of where I live right now. So if I was to commute, it would probably be close to 5 to 6 hours round trip a day, and that's no traffic. And
Yeah.
so it's been a challenge this year with that. COVID's kind of mixed things up a lot, and I've spent more time at home than I have in my 20-year coaching career. But yeah, it's an interesting dynamic for sure.
It's one of those things that I just can't imagine like having to do that much travel for my job. I mean, I'm very fortunate that I was at one point I was driving about 45 minutes to an hour one way, and I've changed that's about 15 minutes. But That would be crazy to try to do. I'm being told my camera is not cooperating right now, so I'm going to try to make a quick fix. Um, Now you do mostly work with like hitting and batting kind of technique, and is that correct?
Yeah. So back in like 2013, 2012 and 13, I kind of looked around at the landscape of online hitting instruction, and there were a lot of old school gurus who had websites and sold DVDs. And at the time, social media was just kind of starting to go. So I kind of said, you know what? I'm going to share everything I know about hitting and everything I've learned on Facebook and Twitter, and I'm going to try to build this up. And I didn't have anything in my mind regarding like selling it, but I'm like, I'm just going to share everything. Just share, share, share. And within like a year, I had 100,000 followers.
Oh,
geez. And 200,000, and now I have close to 1 million 7 years later. But because what was born out of that, 2014, I started a website called thehittingvault.com, which was hitting instruction videos and a system to teach kids in college and pro, the whole gamut of ages, how to hit better. And it was a yearly subscription, video library that you could access online on your phone or on the computer. And in 2016, partnered with my good friend Aaron James, and we built we really built it out. And for the last 4 years, we've really built this huge community the Hitting Vault has, and teaching hitting to young kids, college kids, pros. It's a really large community now, and we've built it up, and really proud of it. So that is the majority, of my time and like energy and effort is gone into Hitting Vault and teaching hitting. And to this day, I still work with some major league players, some minor league players, obviously college, Fresno State, and so that's kind of the majority of what I do in my time.
Cool. I know I probably need to go home and watch a couple videos because my softball swing right now has not been on par or getting into playoff time. So
nice.
But yeah, underhand slow pitch softball is probably a little bit different than 90-mile-an-hour fastball for normal, Major League Baseball. And even college, they still get up there, and maybe even some high school kids are throwing that kind of heat. So it's definitely something to think about. With the videos that you guys have done, I apologize, I haven't tuned in to watch any yet, but what are you guys doing? Is it kind of you maybe out in a park or out at a field and working on it, or are you doing it just from clipping different professional guys, what kind of mechanics they're going into their swing? Because that's something I think I would be very interested in for a handball standpoint.
The one thing that we wanted to do when we first did it in 2016 was to have a movie quality production. So we did it in a movie studio. We did it with a full-on camera crew, with some camera crew from the movie Twilight. I mean, we went all out, and so it was me with a professional baseball player and a professional softball player teaching hitting, teaching drills, and then the pro players would demonstrate it. And so the website was built and designed to kind of walk you through this journey. If you're a parent of an 8-year-old or a parent of a 16-year-old, here's where to start, and here's how to go in your journey of hitting and all that stuff. And so it's this comprehensive library. Think about a very detailed YouTube, organized based on what you actually need from hitting versus just if people who go on YouTube and Google and search, you just you don't know what you're going to get. And so it's a comprehensive system saying, hey, here's everything that you need as a parent or a player, and it walks you through the journey. And so it's me and professional players demonstrating.
Cool. That's something that I feel like I would love to get into. And maybe some of our folks out in the California side, we got a lot of people in the Bay Area and LA that might have a little bit more access to a movie quality recording area, whereas me in Columbus, Ohio, it's a little more difficult, I think, find a proper space for that kind of movie quality making a video. But I've been trying. I bought a DSLR camera, trying to figure out how I can make the most out of that. But I think my part is just trying to figure out how to get a nice quality instructional video. And so maybe I might be able to learn a thing or two about how I can adapt that for handball, because there's a guy, his name's Bent Dahl. He's kind of I'd call him the U equivalent of handball. He's out of, I think, Denmark, but he's on Instagram, just 30-second clips of different videos, and he's got just kind of different tactics, so he'll break it down, and
nice.
It's really nice. He's doesn't have quite the following you have, but it's the same. Sounds like the same kind of style, so that's pretty neat.
That's cool. I'll have to check it out.
Well, that's cool. I'm very, very intrigued now to look into that. But now that we're kind of got through, your kind of background with baseball and a little bit about the hitting vault. So you had a tweet a few weeks ago now. It's crazy how much time has flown by. The pandemic, everything just seems to I don't know where time goes. It's just a figment of our imagination now. But you had sent a tweet saying, what was it, coaches? If you could coach any other sport, what would it be? And your number one sport was handball. You want to give our listeners on a reason why you picked handball?
Yeah, so I've always been, again, like as a kid, you have this bucket list of dreams, and Major League Baseball player was probably number one, but number two was being an Olympian, and I wanted to be an Olympian in some sport. And honestly, there were some opportunities in the coaching pool for USA softball and some things over the years that I've been trying. I would love to become Olympian, and I've done some deep dives into like what sport could I learn at 40 years old. And so in 2008, Olympics, watching the Olympics, it came on, and I'm like, what is this sport? And I started watching. I'm like, this is my sport. Like this is awesome. And for me, if you were to look back at my career in athletics, the things that I would say are my best attributes at some point were that I had a lot of speed and a really strong arm. And so for me, when I'm watching, I'm telling my wife, like, hey, this sport is really looks really fun. Looks like a sport for me. And I noticed that I don't have the height. I'm like 5'10". A lot of these team ball handball players have, or maybe the hops that some of them have. But I started watching it, and I'm like, this is the coolest sport, and I kind of fell in love with it. And then I want to say it's been 2 or 3 years now. A group of buddies of mine reached out to the San Francisco club here in the Bay Area, and we went to their practice, and we did it. And I'll tell you right now, I mean, we were all at I was in much worse shape than I am now. It was the hardest 2 hours of my life. The warm up alone, I was ready to tap out and go home. Like it was so hard. My arms, like the arm circles and everything we did, I thought I was going to die. So all that to say, over the years, it's been 12 years now. I've kind of been watching and kind of keeping my eye on it. Where I live in the Bay Area, where the San Francisco club is, it's about 45 minutes away. Good haul. Having kids in life, it's just difficult. But having said that, like if I was as a coach, like we don't get hobbies. I love golf, and I don't get to do it very often. But if I had a hobby and I had time, team handball is where I go. So when I asked that question, I was like, you know what? For me, I love coaching, and I could see in another life I would coach basketball or football. But again, that's why I asked the hypothetical question. What would you guys coach if you could? And for me, it's a no-brainer. I think it'd be really fun to play and coach team handball. To me, it's like I enjoy watching hockey. I love soccer. But from a scoring standpoint, team handball, it fits all the things that I enjoy in watching Olympic sports and team sports. So I became a fan, and like I said, my goal is at some point to do a deeper dive into team handball, get involved somehow, whether to some degree. And honestly, a lot of it came from, I don't know if you've seen the book. I think she wrote the book back in around 2008. It was a woman who she was trying to become an Olympian. And she wrote a book about the first sport that she thought she could do was team handball. And she got her butt kicked, and it was way too hard. And she ended up going to like world championships in biking. It was called something like Going for Gold or something like that. Something for the gold.
Yeah.
But the first chapter in the beginning of her story was she was going to try to make the Olympics, and she thought that team handball would be the thing, and so and she obviously she didn't survive in that, but that kind of sparked me digging into it more and wanting to learn more about it. And even in the 12 years of me kind of watching from the background, team handball to me has seemed to have grown a lot more from the college club teams I've seen. You know, when I first started paying attention to it, it doesn't seem like there's that many teams. It does seem like there's a lot more now.
Yeah,
a lot more people playing it. It seems like the sport has grown a lot. I haven't paid a good enough attention to it, but it's from the outside looking in, it looks like it's grown a bunch.
Well, that's good to hear. That's definitely good to hear. I think the story, I remember reading that I didn't read the full book, but I think ESPN had an excerpt somewhere on their website. I knew that I read that, and I was just like blown away. And what's crazy is that she, I think, went to a national team tryout or a training camp.
Yes.
And and that was back in 2008 or around that time.
Yeah.
And some of the people that were at that tryout are still on the national team now for the women's team.
Wow.
Yeah. So they've been around the block a few times.
Wow.
Yeah.
So here's a question I have for you regarding team handball and the team, the USA team and the elite handball players. Are they people? And I'm speaking specifically to the United States.
Yep.
Are these guys who grew up playing it? Is it athletes that were in college playing a different sport like lacrosse or something like that, and all of a sudden it's like, hey, here's a team handball, I'm gonna teach you the game, and guys are starting to learn to play it in their 20s? Like, tell me the makeup of these guys. I've always been curious because I never knew anybody who grew up playing team handball, so I've always curious, where do these guys come from on the USA team and on the elite level?
Yeah. So there's kind of like two different paths. So the older generations, say the guys that played in the 70s, 80s, 90s, those guys just were going to college. They were D1 athletes, and one of their buddies just happened to have heard handball, and they sucked one of their other buddies in who was on the basketball team or the volleyball team or the water polo team, and then they just made the national team just like that. And that was the end of it. So that was the olden days. So the 60s, 70s, 80s, I should say, just 70s, 80s, 90s a little bit. Real high influence utilizing college athletes we have. They would go play in Olympic festivals and other kind of regional, like kind of non-standard sport tournaments, things like that. They're actually pretty good. But after the 96 Olympics, they dumped a lot of money into Atlanta. They put a lot of effort towards the Boys and Girls Club. And there was just kind of like a cultural shift with handball that those Olympic festivals didn't happen anymore. Those other kind of regional tournaments died down. Clubs started to kind of shrivel a little bit. And so now the team and the way it's been comprised for probably the last 20 or so years has been mostly dual citizens. So guys that have been playing their entire life in Europe, but have, an American dad or American mom, or they're born in the U.S. The handful of guys, though, that didn't go down that path, you have, and I can count them on one hand. You have Gary Hines. He came out of that Atlanta program. So he's been playing in Germany for the last, he's been in Germany the last 13 years, and he was in Spain, I think, before that. But he's 36 now, I want to say. So he's been there since he was, I think, 18 or 19 years old. He moved over to Europe to play professionally, and he's been doing it ever since, and he loves it. He's a German Ninja Warrior as well, so he's a very, very good athlete. But he just kind of did it on his own because he's a freak athlete. You have Mike Lee. He played I want to say Division III baseball before he transferred. I always get his story a little fuzzy, but I think he played D3 baseball somewhere in Florida or outside Auburn, somewhere down south. Ty Reed, he's playing. Mike and Gary were both on 3rd and 4th division German teams, which is pretty still low on a European level. Ty Reed, he's playing on a 1st division team's development team, and he used to play wide receiver at Alabama. So he's got a couple national championship rings. yeah, he's doing pretty. He was a walk. I don't know if he was a walk on or not, but he got in. I think he's got like one catch for like 3 yards in his, history, which is, that's better than most people could say. Being in Alabama during the current times is good
Wow.
living. And then you have Drew Donlin. Drew is on the team. He's on the first team for a Spanish club that's in the Spanish league, and he was not a varsity athlete at Air Force. He, I think, had the opportunity to be on the football team, turned it down, and played handball instead. He's 6'7", 6'8".
Wow.
He's a chiseled. We call him Captain America. He's he's just your prototypical just athletic specimen.
Wow.
But that's the list. I mean, that's really it.
Wow. Yeah.
There's a couple of guys that have gone over for short stints, maybe like a half season here, half season there with some small tier clubs, but otherwise that's the way that the team's composed of. We're hoping to shift that. So you're asking kind of like how the elite athlete, so we've had some conversations with some other guys that have played Major League Lacrosse, played some professional baseball to an extent, maybe some other like low tier football and things like that. They went through our residency program that existed in Auburn, Alabama, which was a tough place to be because those guys were moving. They either had to be in Auburn or moving to Auburn to be a part of it, and it just wasn't a good fit. Auburn's, I don't know if you've ever been down to Auburn, but it's a good drive from just about anything. It's out there. So it was rough. But for the most part right now, if you're a top tier athlete and let's say you're a left fielder for your college team right now and you don't think you're going to make it to the majors, you still like playing sports, you want to give handball a go, I think that's very much a possibility. They had the way they did the tryout for our upcoming tournament is it was a 15-minute video of you doing a variety of kind of athletic movements.
Really?
Because of COVID, we had to, formally host a tryout to allow anybody to give it a shot. And I don't know how many people actually submitted videos, but I can tell it's good number. Because we have a tournament coming up in Puerto Rico that'll, if we win that tournament, we will qualify for the World Championships in Egypt in January. So it's kind of what we're hoping for, which would be pretty cool.
That's cool.
But the typical athlete that I personally target so I coached at Ohio State. I prefer to go after guys that played, a lacrosse or a hockey, just because of the shooting aspect. I mean, that's a big problem that a lot of baseball and football guys face, is that you're throwing to a person, you're throwing to a target, and so the idea of having to put your shot somewhere not right at the goalie is it takes time. It takes time, but they get there. I mean, baseball guys, they have absolute cannons. I mean, we have a guy that played.
It's the one thing I could do is throw hard.
Yeah.
I remember when we went to that. We went a buddy and I went to that thing. We were running and throwing it, and it felt like the keeper was just like toying with us, like. And so, but I can tell you, I mean, it was one of the most fun nights ever. As much as, and we all talk about it still, like, oh man, we got to go back there, and how fun it was. And my other question for you is, so on those, you're talking about those like tryouts, and like, how many people, athletes, how many are really playing the game of team handball right now out there? I know you named out the people on your hands, but like, in baseball and softball, there's 2 million, however many millions of kids playing. When you guys do the tryouts and you guys are, when you guys are trying to build teams, what are the numbers like?
So from a U.S. standpoint, as far as how many people in the U.S. are completely, anybody that's playing handball at a semi-competitive level, not just high school gym, I would say that number's around 500 at pre-COVID, obviously. So
you said in California or the
no, the whole country. The whole country. 500 total people. Now, from the tryout standpoint, you know how many people you have to beat out in that tryout? Maybe 50.
Really?
Yeah, it's not the odds of you But the problem is that there's a bit of a learning curve, obviously, to learning a new sport. So you being a freak athlete, it's going to be important, but knowing how to play the game's also going to be important. So it's one of those decisions that coaches need to make where, hey, this guy might not know the normal nuances of the game, but if he can jump and throw an absolute heater, perfect corner every time, you don't need to teach much else. Just give him the ball and put it in the back of the net. Which is what I think for me at Ohio State. Like, if I see a guy and he's got a rocket, like, we can work on the target accuracy with placing your shot, but you can't teach cannon. That's that takes time.
So for the Ohio State team is how many like college athletes or college kids are coming out for that team? Like, how many kids are on on those teams?
So for Ohio State, we are, again, not a varsity program, so we're just a club team.
Yep. And
we, at the involvement fair, which is kind of where kids sign up, we typically have somewhere between 300 to 400 kids sign up at the involvement fair. First practice is usually about 80 to 100 kids in one gym. Oh. So we'll have one gym, just me, with 80 to 100 kids wanting to play handball. It's tough because some of those kids are like, well, this is just chaos. I don't want to be here for this. And I'm just like, just wait. Everybody will leave next time. So we try to like ration people off to, you come this day, you come that day. And we've gotten better over the years with that. But at the end of the day, we probably keep about 40 to 50 guys. And we just got a women's team last year. So we got about 10 women. So
really,
it's pretty strong. And I would say most your bigger, like, more established college teams are about at that same level. Some of your newer clubs are going to be 10 to 15 guys, maybe tops.
Yeah. So when you say 500 people play in the United States, you're saying 50 of them play at Ohio State?
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah. So it's a little crazy.
Cool. So I've got two more questions for you.
Yeah, absolutely.
Question number one, you can answer both. Question number one is, what is the state of team handball in the United States now? Is it getting better? Is it getting worse? Like, what is the landscape of it? And number two, for a 43-year-old, somewhat out of shape guy who loves the game, has a large social following, how could I get involved in team or in helping grow team handball or being involved in it to some degree? That would be fun, not just locally, but like, for me, some of the conversations I've had with the sport of softball and the people at the higher levels of softball, especially when it comes to professional softball, is I'm very fortunate to have this huge following, and it's a lot of luck and a lot of other things, and so I don't take a lot of credit for that, but I always recommend to try to leverage me for helping the cause, and so I always tell people in softball, hey, if I can help grow this thing, and so I'll have to say those are my two questions for you. One, what is the state of it, and what does it look like? And two, for a guy, like I said, a nerd like me who's been to one practice ever, he's 43 years old and would love to play or be involved in some way and help grow the sport. What could I do? How could I be involved? What do you think?
So, all right. So, state of the union. I think there's a presidential debate tonight, but we're not tuned in for that. As for the state of handball, I'm not sure if you know this, but we are currently without a CEO. So we're looking for a new CEO. Really? They're kind of in the final stages of selecting a new CEO. They've whittled down. You could probably slide. You could slide it in there if you want to. I can put in a good word for you.
There you go.
But so once that gets finalized, I think we'll have a little bit more stability. There's a lot of moving pieces with the organization. We have 2 full-time employees now. They've been here for about a year. That they've done a lot of great stuff on the social media front as well as the administrative side, getting our act together, which has helped a lot. So I would say things are definitely looking up. You also have to think about some other aspects here that TV time is going to be coming up a lot more. So obviously we're going to have the Olympic rush, but that didn't happen this year. So we're going to get it next year. the World Championships will likely be on some kind of American TV as well. So that's some more TV time for handball, which is always good. That's probably the number one. That's my big selling point, is that, it's no coincidence that every 4 years people start talking about handball, and it's because they see it on TV. And then otherwise, we're kind of at a point where we have a lot of help from the IHF, which is the International Handball Federation, to grow the game at a collegiate level. So there's a lot of kind of vested interest in trying to grow more college teams, but COVID is obviously making that a little difficult. So we're working on that front. But as far as that goes, that's kind of the state of handball. It's kind of dead in the water until COVID kind of ceases, because handball is a contact sport. It's played in a gym. You can't really stay 6 feet apart. So there's a lot of no's with COVID, that a lot of gyms are making it difficult for us to get back into action. I know my club, the Columbus team, and some other teams here in the Columbus area, we've been practicing outside, trying to not do. We follow more of the beach rules. I don't know if you've ever seen beach handball.
Yeah, so and I was wondering with COVID if people were doing more of that. I've seen a lot of videos of it. It seems even more tiring than regular.
It is. It definitely
so I'm watching
is.
it. I'm like, I don't know if I'm in shape enough to do that.
I think I think, like, after I play beach handball, my body is not as just overall sore, but it's very much an endurance thing, because the running on the sand is not easy, and jumping, doing all the spins, you're always falling down, getting back up. It's a lot of work, but there's no contact in beach handball, so that's kind of one of the things that we try to promote, and as well as mini handball. So mini handball is kind of like what your kids would play in gym class. So it's more a basketball defense, no dribbling, 3 steps. So that's kind of another thing that it's very easy for people to learn that, because the rule is just 3 steps and throw the ball in the goal. That's it. Yeah. You don't have to explain much else after that. So I've been trying to do a lot more of that recently, just to get more people playing in this kind of awkward time, so that people don't have to interact with too many people. Then the second half of your question, what you could do for handball. There's a lot of different things, I think, that came to mind when you asked that. I think, your background specifically being with making videos, and I know you're more on the hitting side. I just immediately thought of, like, different throwing mechanic videos, but you're on the hitting side, so that probably wouldn't mesh well with you. But definitely just telling people in the baseball world and softball world about handball, about the other opportunities, because people don't realize that all it takes is a halfway decent athlete, and you could make a junior national team, and maybe even make a senior national team, and maybe get a pro deal to play in Europe, just because you're interested in it. We have a guy at Ohio State who has been playing. He just started playing last year, and he's working on getting a contract to play in Europe professionally. And he's been playing handball less than a year. Is he a freak athlete? I would not say he's a freak athlete. He's a good athlete. He's not the greatest athlete I've ever seen, but because there's a program right now with a lot of the European clubs and Team USA in an effort to grow the game, given those opportunities for athletes. So I would just say that, you see a cool handball video maybe come up on Twitter or something like that, give it a retweet here and there, because you got a good backing, and maybe even we could coordinate with USA Team Handball to send you some stuff to share and things like that. And I know hitting is very explosive with the hips. There's a lot of explosive moves, I would say, from a handball standpoint, on both defense, shooting, even goalkeepers, things like that. That could come into play. Yeah.
What was the name of the guy that you said on Instagram that was really popular, shared videos? I want to make sure I follow him and
Handball Ninja. Oh, Bent Dahl. You're talking about Bent Dahl. Yes, Bent Dahl's the coach. He coaches a women's team in. Oh, I'm gonna get made fun of here. I think he coaches the women's team. It's in Romania, I want to say.
I'm looking at him right now. He's got a huge following.
Yeah. So he does really well, and he's very well respected coach in the handball community.
Awesome.
But yeah, that's kind of the thing, I think, for us, is that the people that are on your following big baseball, big softball people might not have ever considered handball, and I think that that's something that if we just need to make it clear the pathway, because like for me, I was not a varsity athlete in high school, but I've been on the junior national team. I've now an assistant coach with the national teams, things like that. I wouldn't consider myself an elite athlete, but I think that the pathway for an elite athlete to come into this sport is very, very, very doable.
Really cool. Really cool. I forgot what I was going to ask you about it, but that's for me. A huge portion of my followers aren't baseball, softball people.
Okay.
A lot of soccer, lacrosse, volleyball. And I've got a lot of international followers that are cricket, rugby. It's been interesting. 90% of the stuff that I share on social media is about team culture and parenting and coaching. I would say 10% of what I share is baseball and softball hitting advice.
Okay.
The Coach Lyle brand, or what I'm passionate about, is culture, parenting, coaching, person development, and so for me, 99% of what I share has nothing to do with baseball or softball. I've kind of transitioned the last couple of years of not being the internet hitting guru. I think it was too much work for me to try to stay on the top of that mountain. And for me, as much as I still love it and still I'm really involved in it, for me, I've transitioned to what is most helpful to people who follow me. And for me, most of my followers are sports parents. And so trying to help them navigate parenting and sports and how to make it a good experience and to not burn your kids out and stuff like that. So I would be curious to see. I'll have to pull them sometime to see how many of them really know anything about team handball or stuff like that. And I said, at the very least, I hope this conversation, you and I can kind of pick your brain about stuff and how to get involved more. I'll get my resume together for the CEO thing.
Yep. Send it my way. We'll take care of it.
For me, again, I would love to be involved with it more. It's something it's been kind of on my bucket list for about 12 years now. Get involved with team handball in some way, and it's something I've always wanted to do and figure out. So now let me ask you this: athlete wise, I'm 43, so I'm at the end of the road for most. What would you say is the average age of? I mean, obviously you have all your college club teams.
Yep.
And I said when I went and played with those the guys at the team handball team, like the Cal Heat, to me they looked a lot of them early 30s, some late 20s kind of guys. I felt like there's some older guys too. I honestly it was hard to tell.
Yeah, no, Jean-Marc looks a little older than he is. So
yeah, what do you think? On all these teams that I see, like these club teams that are not college teams? Are there guys 43 still playing, or is there a senior circuit that I can start training for? Is there like a 50 and older level?
Oh, yes.
What can I look forward to if I try to get in shape and learn this game?
So there's a tournament that we compete in every year in Jersey. So a little bit of a haul for you to get to, but it's where all the former Olympians play. So these guys are in their 60s still playing.
Really?
Oh yes. And one of our guys laid one of them out. I mean, to the point where he crawled off the field. I was like, that's somebody's grandpa over there. You can't be doing that.
Oh, wow.
So they're still out there giving it their all. Full contact too. They're not shying away from hits. They're still giving hits. Wow. And you being 43, you still got plenty of miles left.
I still got some time.
I
still got some mileage left. Yeah. Okay. All right. Well, tomorrow I'm gonna get onto what's Ben Dalt's Instagram page, and I'm gonna start
doing some
learning some
analysis.
Technique. Start figuring out how to train for it, stuff like that. If I still have a shot.
Yeah, I think he still very much could play for Cal Heat's second team. Absolutely. Like there's some of the Cal Heat guys are in the chat right now, so. I think you could definitely compete for their second team, no problem. So
for the Cal Heat guys that are tuned in, if you remember me and honestly my brother's 10 years younger than me. He's 32, and
okay.
he actually when we went there, he went with us, and he's a CrossFitter. I mean, he's an incredible athlete. He runs like a 4:30 mile. Like he's an incredible athlete. And so he did pretty well that day. But if you're a Cal Heat person tuning in and you remember our group, I want you to know that the entire group believes that you guys made it so hard on us on purpose, so as like this prank to be like to teach us a lesson about, like, you can't just show up here and think you can hang with us, because like I said, we walked away barely walking, and all my friends were just like, there's no way that's how it normally is, because that warm up was so difficult that it was so hard. And so to this day, we all still joke, like, I know those guys were messing with us. They were, we always joke about how possible that, like, there's no way it's that hard every practice.
Every time. And it's like, man, like, I don't even want to practice now because I'm already like tired from just the first 15 minutes. So that's normal. I play goalie, so our routine is way different, and it's enough. I get all my workout in the first 15 minutes, and then the rest of practice is just taking easy shots.
I felt it was like a 30-minute arm circle stretch routine that I couldn't even lift my arms as soon as you started the practice time, and I'm like baseball and softball, we do this for like 5 minutes and then we roll. And so I remember looking at the warm up like, oh my gosh, is anybody watching? Because I can't lift my arms anymore.
Oh, the ball's so much heavier. That's what I try to explain to people, is that handball is, I think, 15 ounces, and a baseball's like 3 point something ounces.
5 ounces.
5 ounces? 5 ounces. Okay, so a handball's 3 times the weight of a baseball. Do you know how fast some of the faster handball professional handball guys are shooting at? Just a guess.
That's a great question. I would guess 70. I don't know.
So the upper echelon guys are throwing in the mid 80s, somewhere between 80 to 85 miles an hour, and that is a heavy ball coming at you.
Wow.
Yeah, so it's crazy.
Gosh.
I mean, those guys, the mechanics of throwing a smaller ball versus a larger ball, obviously different a little bit, but I'd be curious to see what they could throw a baseball. Definitely some heat.
That's cool. And honestly, a lot of baseball training, professional and college training right now is a lot of heavy ball training, a lot of about that weight. So I would guess that probably more and more baseball players would probably be able to just to increase it a little bit. And it's used as a velocity gain. Yeah. There is a huge gains in baseball with weighted balls, and it's pretty much standard across the board that everyone is training with weighted baseballs now. So
okay, maybe we donate some handballs for warm-ups then, and they can throw with. So
cool.
Mishi in the chat said there's a Masters series on the international level for 40 plus. So if you want to,
right.
So you can get you get your group of buddies together. You guys could make the Team USA 40 plus team. That's totally doable. Man. That's totally doable. I mean, nobody's gonna stop you. I got the jerseys behind me here.
I'm gonna rally my group together for at least one more practice. Some of us are in better shape than we were. I gotta imagine. It was before I moved to South Carolina and before I coached in Missouri. So I'm gonna guess it was 2-3 years ago that we did that. So I'm gonna I keep telling we're gonna get together again, hopefully when COVID's and we'll start training and go to another practice like that again. So, and that's cool. That's really fun.
I think they would definitely appreciate that. And another thing, while we were talking, I think for you to get involved, and I know you're busy, obviously 5 kids, and still have all your other duties with life. There's a lot of committees and other groups within USA Team Handball that are looking for support. So, like I said, we're without a CEO right now, and I know people in the chat are aware that our 2 employees are looking for as much help as they can get. So, if you would be interested in any kind of assistance on that front, there's a lot of different avenues.
Yeah, I'll be honest with you. Not that I wanted to add a ton of stuff to my plate, but it is something I would be interested in. So
okay,
if there is if there's something I could be involved in, I would really enjoy it. I've been telling my wife, golf is, if I had to have a hobby, it's golf. But having said that, it's because of COVID and the time that's been allowed with families and stuff like that. I've been telling my wife, hey, I want to get into something. I want to kind of get involved with something a little bit more. And to me, that would be the perfect thing. So feel free to
Okay.
share I can share my contact stuff with you. If you don't have, if you have my email and stuff, but
Yep.
I would love anything that I could do to be helped to help grow it or be involved with it. To me, I would really enjoy it.
Awesome. I'll definitely be sharing your information with Melissa and Emily then, and
Nice.
I think they'll be very excited to look forward to that. We got another comment here in the chat. Cal Heat was looking at participating in the pre-COVID. Cal Heat was looking at participating in pre-COVID, so we need to check out what the state of competition is now. So things might change. I don't know what the situation is in California, but I know here in Ohio we're starting to kind of ease back into things. Obviously, football changes that because football is the driver of everything. Yeah, so I think there's a lot of opportunities there.
My county, Contra Costa County, today transitioned into, you can go to movie theaters with smaller capacity. You can do so. We're starting to move into. And hopefully with the flu season and everything, hopefully we continue to trend down and world kind of heals and we get some vaccines and we get out of this soon. But it does, in our county, Contra Costa County, it's starting to ease up. Today actually started easing up. So there's rumors that in 2 weeks our schools might be able to do some type of hybrid model. And I can tell you my wife is super excited about that because
what range of ages are your kids? How old are they?
So my oldest is 24.
Oh boy. Okay.
I have a 16-year-old senior. I'm a junior in high school, and then I have 3 little ones, 8, 7, and 3. And the 8 and 7-year-olds are doing the distance learning right now. And I'll tell you, if anybody else is doing that right now, we're getting our butts kicked.
I believe it. It's got to be impossible.
We're ready to ship them off to any boarding school or that would take them, because it is, if you lose your eyes off them for 5 seconds or you leave the room, they're gone. They're on YouTube, the Nintendo Switch. They're just gone. If you aren't locked, if you don't have them strapped to a chair, my kids are like, I'm out of here. Yep. You can't make me do it, and they run off. So we're looking forward to hopefully school actually happening at some point this year.
That would be definitely a good relief for you and your wife, I'd imagine. I know some of my coworkers have been facing that, and I'm just bravo to you guys. Parents of the Year. Everybody this year, everybody gets a Parent of the Year award, because it's got to be impossible.
It's tough.
One of the other points I was going to say about you getting more involved with handball is that the selling point I make to people, and sometimes this might come off as too much, but it's something I tell a lot of our guys, and they're just like, JD, you're just blowing smoke. But I think you would definitely understand with me here is that the state of handball is very unknown, and it's very relatively not commonly understood. And so my grandpa, he used to play kind of semi-pro football, those Leatherhead group, back in the 20s and 30s, and kind of the rise of football. And so I always see that as, he was a part of that at the very beginning, and look at where football is now. And I try to sell people on handball doesn't exist really now. And you getting involved in any capacity, you are going to be one of those pillars for growth for the development of the sport for years to come. Because we're at a stepping stone now. I think we got the right kind of wheels in motion to really catapult this to a greater level. And I think that someone like yourself, taking a vested interest could really do a lot of great things for our sport. And
I would love to be involved in some capacity. And I can tell you, soccer in the United States has grown crazily in the last few years in the interest. And I have 2 sisters that played college soccer, so I really enjoyed soccer growing up. But to me, I know I don't have the answers, but I know that in the United States, if the U.S. team handball team was to do well in the Olympics. Yeah. I mean, I think that all it would take was to qualify, them to qualify. I think the United States, just the way the United States works, and as we go in the phase of that, and I'm trying to think of the sport that, and from the Olympic standpoint, you think about the Hunger Games movies, and archery blew up after that, and a lot of kids got into that, and I don't know, I can't think of what sport it was, but there was a sport in the last couple Olympics that U.S. team did really well, and it kind of grew the sport, and I wish I could remember what it was, but
curling for sure.
Yeah, curling. So curling, and San Jose, which is about an hour south of me, had the people, and it was like the common man. I mean, these guys were not like, these people were not athletes, Olympians, and and so I think I think for team handball, to me, it seems like if in the United States, if it can have a year where it does really well and can do that, I think it's all it would take for something like that to grow. And I've seen a little bit, like I said, I'm a huge fan of like Olympic sports, off sports. I've been wanting to get into pickleball. I think pickleball is a really cool sport, and I think pickleball is really cool. But I can tell you, 5 years ago I thought it was fun and I wanted to get into it and never did. But I can tell you, in California, pickleball has blown up. I mean, there's a court right by my house. It's huge, and I don't know what the driver was. I don't know if I have no idea what it was, but and it could have been money got put into it, and I really don't know. I know maybe there were professional tennis guys that kind of got into it a little bit, but for whatever reason, pickleball blew up, and I think that from a team handball standpoint in the United States, again, from a PE standpoint in high school clubs, I think and I think Cal Heat does a good job of that at that school at Fremont. I think that, again, if you can grow the game at those younger ages, and it seems like, I mean, you probably know already from a college club team standpoint, 2020 to 10 years ago, I got to guess there's a lot more club teams in the college, and starting to get younger and younger. And I think that's just what it's going to take. And it's probably a long process. And I don't know. I mean, maybe you can answer. I have no idea the answer. Like what countries is team handball really, really big?
Yeah. So it kind of depends on how big you want to say. Like, number one sport, our good friend John Ryan at Team Handball News, he did a kind of breakdown of all the countries of the world where handball kind of ranked. Your Eastern European countries, a lot of them have handball number one. But handball's a close number two in places like, Germany, France was, I think, rugby was number two, but Scandinavia for sure. If it's not one in some of those places, it's definitely number two. So a good portion of Europe has got a strong handball presence. Obviously, there's some variety in your South American countries. They have a big volleyball presence, but handball's still pretty big in Brazil and Argentina. Chile's definitely on the rise. Africa is, in a very much development. They're kind of the same situation. Northern Africa, though, is very good. The Egyptian handball program is, I don't know if they know that the World Championship's coming to Egypt and they want to look good for being the host country or what, but they've done very well recently, so I'm excited to watch them in January. But yeah, it's very interesting where handball, I mean, people are like, handball, it's probably just been popular in, one country in Europe, and it's like, no, it's pretty well known everywhere besides the U.S. and Canada. Canada faces a similar problem. There's really just the Cal Heat equivalent of Canada's Alberta, and it's funny because they share the same jerseys. So they when they play each other, it's quite comical. But yeah, it's crazy because I've been to tournaments. It's called the Partille Cup. It's in Sweden. I'm sure Martin will correct me if I'm wrong here on my facts, but I want to say there was 86 countries represented when I played in it. So there's a team from 86 different countries that came to Sweden to play in this tournament, which is crazy. I mean, I don't know if that's It seems like a lot. U.S. we sent only one team, but still, it's we got to walk out there with the Team USA flag in this big arena, and it's really a unique experience that, you know, I was just a regular guy. Again, you know, if you're getting to wear your Team USA jersey and carrying the flag out in front of, you know, thousands of people, it's pretty cool.
That's my dream. I mean, that's the dream.
I think, you know, just going to let you know this, that the Olympics are coming in 2028, and we absolutely will need volunteers, whether that's a, you know, scorekeeper, official for the team, or a team manager, things like that. You could very easily be.
I've got some time to, to learn
digest.
it, get involved, work my way some way into the staff for 2028 Olympics. Like, I can put that on my goal board over here.
Yes, absolutely, absolutely. That is 100% achievable. Like, that is not. I'm not lying. I'm not exaggerating. That is very much a doable activity. So
I'll figure out where I can be involved in there. You know, towel boy, water boy. Then I'll figure out what I could be. That's awesome. I'll work my way into the board of directors or somehow, something like that.
You know, you wanted to be on that. That's very doable as well. So, yeah, you might. It's a good point. Yeah, send me your resume. We'll see what we can do about that. Definitely some possibilities. So,
that's cool.
Cool. Well, Matt, this has been fantastic. I've learned a lot. You're definitely a really cool guy, down to earth, you know, for the following you have. Like, I was definitely scared talking with you at first, but, you know, definitely a normal guy to talk to. So it's really, really nice.
Yeah. And like I said, I mean, for me, the social media thing, again, is just, I feel kind of just blessed that, you know, and very lucky that use that. And for me, I hope that I've used it as a vehicle to help people, and for me, I want to continue as my following grows to, again, like USA Team Handball, I want to be able to help grow areas of sport and coaching and parenting, and that's kind of my goal in this next stage of life as I'm getting older, is to hopefully say, hey, I helped out, made a difference, an impact in these places, and so. I hope that when people think of me and how I am, that they think, hey, this guy wants to help people, and that's kind of my hope.
Cool, awesome. Well, I think you could definitely make that happen. So I will be there to help you make that happen as well. So fantastic. I appreciate that. Well, thank you for coming on today. It was a great conversation. I hope everybody enjoyed it. Oh, I apologize. We had confirmation in the chat that the last Partilli Cup had over 1,400 teams from 52 countries. So I might have skewed my numbers. It might have been 68 and 76.
Where's the next one? Where's the next one going to be? I might have to go experience it.
It's every year in Gothenburg, Sweden. Every year. It's been there for
Sweden's on my list of places to go
beautiful.
Visit. For sure.
It's beautiful. Highly recommend. I highly recommend.
That's cool. Really cool.
Awesome. Nice. Well, thanks, Matt. And we hope to have you on again, maybe sometime with an update of where, when you get involved, maybe after your Cal Heat practice. So
I started following Bent Dahl, and I'll have to start digging into following some more people. You'll have to help me with some people who to follow for strategy,
handball,
things like that. Yep. And like I said, if anything, if I can't be an athlete, maybe I can learn how to coach at some point. That would be cool for me. I would love that. So
absolutely.
I got to learn some of the technical stuff on the coaching side.
It's pretty easy to pick up. So you're a smart guy. I think you'll be able to figure it out pretty well. So excellent. Well, thank you again.
Yeah, I appreciate you having me on too.
And,
thank you.
Yeah, we look forward to having you on in the future. So as always, everybody, keep shooting, shooters. So I got we got Matt's information here. You can follow him on social media at Coach Lyle, and check out the Hitting Vault at the Hitting Vault on Twitter. I think you're on Instagram as well for the Hitting Vault, but both of them, Twitter, Instagram, any other social media opportunities, just reach out to Matt and he can probably get back to you pretty quick. So we're very thankful to have him on.